Okay, so again, Bruchim Abayim to the second Shiur of teachings of Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. Kodem Kol, again, it's the biggest zchut to be able to be mishtatef, to be part of this thing. I want everyone to know that once at Ziknei Breslov in Williamsburg, they had a gathering for Rabbi Nachman's Yortzeit, as they do every year. And one of the older Breslovers was saying that something that Rabbeinu said, that's it's a very, very sort of deep line, that he said that there was a sefer called Sefer HaNisraf. It's known as the Burnt Book. And it was called the Burnt Book because they burnt that book. And that book didn't make it to be published, because as soon as it was in the world, it was already Rabbeinu was getting sick, and it was something that that if it would have remained, it would have taken his life. He actually told Rabbi Natan and Rabbi Naftali. And when the shaila came that if the book should remain in the world, or that and he should be taken away, or rather that we should burn the book, or keep Rabbeinu in the world, then everyone voted that we should burn the book, and that Rabbeinu should remain in the world. So one of the Ziknei Breslov mentioned that Rabbeinu said when that book was being burnt, for whatever deep reasons why that had to be, Rabbeinu said that when Mashiach comes, when Mashiach Tzidkenu comes, he's going to give a perush on this book, on the Sefer HaNisraf. So one of the Ziknei Breslov was explaining, so he says, what does that mean that Mashiach is going to give a perush on this, on Rabbeinu's works? So he said Mashiach Tzidkenu means, what does Mashiach Tzidkenu mean? The Sefer Chassidus explain that Mashiach Tzidkenu means a nefesh klalit. Right? What does it mean, a nefesh klalit? That Mashiach Tzidkenu's neshama isn't just one neshama, like another guy in the world, that all of a sudden he's Mashiach, but that he has a connection, he has a spark of every single person's soul in the world. That's how he's Mashiach. That's why it's going to be a geula on all levels, because everyone's going to feel that connection to this individual Mashiach Tzidkenu, and he's going to bring a redemption, right? He's going to bring a salvation to every single neshama. You can only have that if it's a neshama that is connected, that has a shorish to every single soul. That means every single soul of ours has a shorish in Mashiach. So this Breslov was saying, so when it says that Mashiach is going to give a perush, when Rabbeinu said that Mashiach is going to give a perush on his work, it means that every single one of us is a perush on Rabbeinu's work, right? The connection that you have to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the way you look at Rabbeinu's teachings and how you find meaning and strength from that is that perush, that is your perush of Rabbeinu's work. So every living human being has this element about them. So to claim and to sit here to say, I'm giving a shiur on Rabbeinu, chas v'shalom, to say such a thing, I can only say, what it's done for my life, and how it's constantly enriching my life, and to share my personal hargasha on how certain Torahs, have a certain impact on neshamas, and for us to just share it together, to look at it together. As we're going to Mitzvah Hashem stop and also discuss, how we view certain things. So, as we know, one of the main things of Rabbeinu is hisbodedus, right? Is this vehicle of hisbodedus. Now, Baruch Hashem, lately I've been looking at this sefer Hishtapchut Nefesh, and it's a sefer that I've looked at in the past, but I'm sort of taking it slow and approaching it again, and I'm noticing there's such gems, there's such unbelievable gems in the sefer Hishtapchut Nefesh, and to be able to, maybe what we can do is that we could start the sefer. There is the beginning piece in hisbodedus actually focuses on tehillim. Now we'll take a look at that in Mitzvah Hashem. Rabbeinu does mention, right? And Reb Nassan mentions that the saying of tehillim and hisbodedus is like the same bechina. It's like the same thing. Why? Because the tehillim was the hisbodedus of David HaMelech. That was his conversations that he had with the Kadosh Baruch Hu. So he says, when you're speaking to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's your chelik within Mashiach that you're enlivening, that you're bringing to life with your communication with Hashem Yitbarach. You're enlivening that chelik of that tehillim of yourself. Because Rabbeinu says that every single person, if you take tehillim slowly and you look at the words, you could really find your neshama in tehillim. Everyone can find their souls in the words of tehillim. It can have meaning for everything you're going through. So why? Because it comes from that spark of Mashiach Tzidkenu. It comes from that spark of the Nefesh Klali that everyone has a chelik. Like it says, why was David zoche to tshuva? Why was those maisim? It says David was not roy to those actions, those things that seemed like sins for us, only to teach tshuva for Am Yisrael. That was the only sole purpose that he went through certain things, in order that he can come to that level of yearning again, that we can pick up a Sefer Tehillim and we can find that deep connection with inside of us. How can a person have that connection? It's only because Tehillim is the aspect of Ne'im Zemiros Yisrael. It's the aspect that it's like the song of every single Jew, which is what hisbodedus is about. But so you should know these two practices of just saying Tehillim and hisbodedus is chashuv me'od. It's chashuv me'od. You know, I just want to tell you a story before we learn. You know, we mentioned some stories. So I want to tell you the story, and then on this note, we'll see the first piece of Hishtapchut Nefesh that discusses Tehillim. We have to understand why Tehillim is so lofty that it connects us to tshuva. So one time, I don't know if you guys have heard of the Kotzker Rabbi, Rabbi Nachum Mendel of Kotzk. What happened is that one time there was a Yid in Kotzk that he was known as the tehillim Yid. That's what they called him. He was a simple Jew. He used to sit down in Kotzk and he used to cry all day and used to say tehillim, right? And people mamish held him of a tzaddik. Like they used to come to him. They used to actually, some people used to give him kvitlach and he used to daven for people. He used to look at their names and mamish cry. But when it came to learning, he was a simple Yid. He didn't know how to learn, right? He used to cry and sit and say tehillim the whole day. So one time, the Kotzker Rebbe, and you know, the Kotzker Rebbe was a huge, massive Talmid Chacham. He was an Ilui, he was a genius. He's walking in the Beis Medrash, he's pacing back and forth, and he's thinking about a certain Gemara. He's thinking about a certain Tosfot that he saw. And he's what's known, it's called clearing. He's clearing the Tosfos. He's going back and forth. You know, maybe it means like this, but on that, you know, and he found like a question, and he couldn't like answer up the Tosfot because he was like, from the angle that he was looking at, it didn't make sense. Really be'iyun, like heavy duty. He's going back and forth, and he's saying it over to himself. So, and he couldn't figure it out. So finally he stops and he sees this Rabbi, this tehillim Yid sitting on the side of the room, and he's just like sitting on the floor and he's saying tehillim. So he stops him and he's like, no, Rabbi Yankel, maybe you could say this Tosfos. Can you say it over to me? I have trouble understanding the Tosfos. So then Rabbi Yankel was like, the Tehillim Yid he looked at him, he said, Rabbi, you know, with all due respect, you know, there's so many Talmidei Chachamim here in Kotzk. I mean, why of all people to come to me, you know, the Rabbi knows I don't know how to learn. So then the Kotzk Rebbe says to him, just say it over. Just say over to the Tehillim. The Tosfos. So he takes the Gemara and he starts singing the Tosfos like he does Tehillim. He starts like, you know, singing with his tune. So then the Kotzker Rebbe all of a sudden he's like, that's it. He's like, Gavalt, that's it. That's the answer. That's the answer. So then he was like, well, what do I do? He's like, no, from the way you paused and you stopped and you sang that word with a certain tune, it made me realize that's the focus of the Tosfos, and you know, he like, so that's that answers the shaila, and like, to make a long story short, he figured it out from the way he sang over the Tosfos. So then So then at that moment, the Kotzker Rebbe was looking at the tehillim Yidim. He was looking with such affection that he said, how would you be willing to trade all of your tehillims for all of my tosfuses? I'll give you tosfus. Just give me your tehillims. So then the tehillim Yids, he said, without even, it says in the story, without even flinching, he just looked right at him and was like, no way. You know? This story, it's a very deep story. We have to learn it. We have to be mechazik ourselves, because there's a point of that. There's a deep connection that you have with the Kadosh Baruch Hu that not even the biggest Talmud Chacham in the world has. I don't care if he comes with fancy tosfuses and gemaras and rayas and he gives you all this hashkafa. Everybody knows that there's something called a pintel d'yid, that you're connected with the Kadosh Baruch Hu, and that is the part that's accessed with tehillim. So a lot of us, we want to be zocher to tshuva. We want to feel tshuva, right? But it's hard, you know? Why? Because we're in such a megushim world. And, you know, like it says, the Baal Shem Tov says, Rabbi Cherny told me, the Baal Shem Tov says, what does it mean, Mashiv Haruach Umorid Hageshem? Mashiv Haruach means Hashem takes off the ruchnias, Haruach, Umorid Hageshem. He brings in the gashmias, like having physicality, coarseness. He takes away the spirituality and coming out with the physicality. So we're all living. I mean, Baruch Hashem, such times there's abundance. It's great. It's fantastic. You know, such awesome abundance, right? You know, but you didn't, like, you know, in Europe, your stories like, you know, like if somebody had meat in his cholent, it was like, psh, you know, like, you know. Now it's like you go to, like, which meat is the best meat? I mean, you know, like. There's so much meat, like, you know, even like a parv cholent is like a delicacy now because there's so much meat. So what do we do with all this gashmis on top of us? You know, it says that there's a mitzvah to do bris milah, but there's another type of milah, and the other type of milah is a circumcision of the heart. Right? It says that es levavcha ves levav zarecha, you should circumcise your heart and the hearts of your children. So we want to do tshuva, but there's all this fat that's on us. There's all this gashmis, this coarseness. And every time, if a yid, it says in the Svarim, every time a yid falls into Avera, he causes another, so to speak, klipa to come upon himself.